Hello and welcome everyone to Euphoria. My name is Aida. My pronouns are she and her. I'm a Latinx queer woman of color. I have tan skin, dark eyes, dark hair that is very curly. I am wearing a white t shirt with some really important things on it, such as science is real, Black Lives Matter, no human is illegal, love is love, and more wonderful things in rainbow fonts, and a red cardigan. I'm going to let my friend introduce themselves in one moment here, but welcome to Euphoria. We are celebrating TTRP Girls. This whole month, in honor of International Women's Day this month, is dedicated to uplifting and spotlighting the amazing talents throughout TTRPGs, be they game designers, writers, developers, players, fans of GMs, everything about TTRPGs, but who identify as women and or femme. Um, we think that not enough love and spotlight is on them, especially those that are outside of the US and especially those from marginalized communities. Um, we're here to celebrate all about that. And one person we're really excited to shine a spotlight on today is Úna-Minh. Would you please introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you so much. My name is Úna-Minh. My pronouns are she, her. I'm an Irish Asian person, which is quite unusual. I have brown skin, black hair, straight black hair, and I'm currently wearing a sports jersey and a sports jacket. And my jersey in particular is important to me as it is a Palestinian jersey. So I have a lot of things to talk about and things to think about. So I'm really excited about this conversation.
Excellent, excellent. Um, you are I think one of my new favorite words is a multi hyphenated talent of a person, a developer, writer, producer, published author, community space curator, multiple award winning, if I recall correctly.
I think that's just because of the ADHD, Ida. That's why I have all these lists of things that I've done over the years.
To have the amazing, in this case, harnessed as a power to just laser and like be the absolute best you can possibly be. And I'm happy that you have that recognition.
Oh,
And
thank you.
I think joy, I hope joy.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And especially these days, it's really important to have that kind of stuff in your back pocket too that you can tap into, especially with storytelling and things like that. It's vital.
Especially with storytelling. I think you sort of came onto our collective radar because little birdies were telling us that you are a big D&D fan and you have a very long running campaign.
Yes.
Let's go.
Yeah, it's been running since 2018.
Wow, impressive.
Yeah, so it is long. And it's been the same campaign weekly,
Ooh,
which is you know, I know, I
wow,
know.
wow.
Now, obviously, it does help that it's online, but
Mhm.
I like to think it's still quite impressive that we've been going that long consistently and been at it. It's a labor of love, but I do enjoy what it brings to both the players and both myself as a storyteller. It's been really exciting to create this kind of long form content. And actually, it began in 2018 as text
Mhm.
based only for a couple of years.
Oh, impressive.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, and it was because I was actually just learning about D&D more than anything. Um, because I had followed actually a lot of voice actors over the years because I play a lot of games in general.
Mhm.
And two of them in particular, like Travis Willingham and Laura Bailey, I'd just been following their careers. And obviously, kind of around then was like the height of like Critical Role and stuff like
Yep.
that, Fox Machina and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, oh, what is this? Why haven't I heard about this? So I kind of got kickstarted from there and thus started my campaign from
Yeah,
there.
no. That's
Mm.
actually exactly when I started. I was also like, Critical Role was started coming up. I heard about D&D and back in the day when I used to watch things like I think Stranger Things was starting to come out
Mm.
around that time. Big Bang Theory, problematic, but they touched on D&D, and I was like, I heard about that thing. And then
Yes.
a coworker said they DM'd. What a brave thing to admit, and that also turned into a 3-year campaign. So, what is if your campaign is being turned into a movie? What
Oh,
is the elevator pitch plot?
oh my God.
It's a
Imagine.
long elevator ride.
It's the longest elevator to like the 6 millionth floor. It's yeah, it's so I essentially based it around because I was learning at the same time, so it kind of
Mhm,
evolved, which I kind of liked that as well. I didn't go in with a set thing, like I didn't go in like knowing Curse of Strahd or something like that, you
mhm,
know.
mhm.
So very much a newbie. So it's a homebrew campaign with rules of 5e. So essentially it's called Alestros Everwinter, which is obviously a play on Neverwinter, the city. And the premise is that it had that the party has come across this everlasting winter that they're trying to figure out the source of, and trying to just figure out how the communities across this continent deal with each scenario of this frost taking over. So, for example, we have players who are based in the desert. Their world has been taken over by the frost. So it's more, I think, more about the people and the pockets, and around them there is a war happening, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are part of the war.
Mhm.
They're just like present during the war. So I think that's more interesting than having like the big hero at the end or whatever. So I think that's what's helped with making this campaign everlasting and ever making it really long, is that they are not the heroes. They are part of a bigger story. They do heroic things, but I think that's more interesting to be like, these are actually people at the end of the day. Just happen to be magical people, but you know.
Really cool. May I ask the party composition or just pure curiosity?
Yeah. So we have had most of the players have been there from the start, which is also
Mhm.
very impressive. Um,
Wow.
and we're based in, well, I'm based in Ireland because I'm Irish. So we have some Irish players, players from the UK, and players from the US. We have, for some reason, we have gotten three Genasi. I don't know how that happened, but it just happened that way. So we have two fire Genasi and one water Genasi.
Ooh.
And then we have a tiefling barbarian, ASMR, and then we've had a mix of also we've had some tabaxis and humans as well. One that is a human, kind of, but has the head of a pumpkin that they're still trying to figure out.
That
Uh,
tracks.
yeah, of course, it makes total sense.
That
Yeah,
absolutely tracks.
yeah.
Have you ever played? Have you ever been long into other TTRPGs that aren't D&D or 5e?
Funny enough, no. I think it's because it takes so much of my energy that I
Mm.
just like focus on this. I have played Blades, which I really enjoyed, briefly. And then also there's a game that I own that still haven't played, but kind of still fascinates me because of the community aspect. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's the ground itself. I think it's what it's called. Let me double check that because I want to be,
I'm
yes.
familiar with that title. Just gonna
Yeah,
look
the
that up.
grounded, it's really good. It's I love the premise. It's by Pipkin, and it's just basically about community and creating a community from nothing and working together with your players, and over a span of like, it could be 4 days to 8,000 years, and how the system evolves over that period of time. So I really like the premise of that, but I haven't got a group to play it yet. So that's something
Mm.
I would really love to investigate at some stage. Yeah.
And always as a GM, the storyteller, or are you interested going in as a player?
I am a player in another D&D campaign, and it is very different to be the player, but it's
Yes,
nice. It's
yes,
like a bit of
yes.
a relief to be like, okay, now this is my relaxing time to now.
Interesting. I started off as a player
Mm,
and eventually I DM'd. So this was with D&D, and my DM joined the table as a player.
mm.
And we've known each other for years. We communicate our feelings to each other. And ultimately, they said that they found they had a hard time turning off the DM brain internally. And they had too much, how to say this diplomatically, unused energy that they couldn't put elsewhere. And that deterred from their personal enjoyment. So they're like, this was great, but brain is not letting me have the fun I need to have here. And that was the responsible thing to say. Though, like, no hard feelings. We've played, we've still DM'd to each other and other things, but something about that was. And back to playing other TTRPGs. Euphoria, actually, we haven't played a D&D game at all yet on stream,
Oh,
or I think even on our Discord.
mm,
We do like branching out to other TTRPGs because D&D is like that big one.
of
And we're
course.
all about like not always the big one, but we have to recognize that alongside it being the big one, it is, and even one of the crunchier ones compared to other TTRPGs, which definition is very debatable. It has the most resources, it has the most guides, it has the most tutorials, it has the most tools to simplify or make more complicated. And from that, it's a springboard. I started D&D for the first 5 years of my TTRPG interests around the same
Hmm.
time as you. But since then, I was like, yeah, but I want to play something in space and I want it to be on a ship. You could do that in D&D, but until you learn that other games do that maybe better or different ways, it's like, oh, that's why. One of the more recent games I ran was a one shot of a Pasión de las Pasiones, which is
Mm.
a game where you essentially mechanize a Spanish soap opera
Oh
with all
wow,
those tropes.
love it, love that. That's so cool.
So there's so many things. I hope in your future that maybe you have the means or the tables, even at Euphoria, to come like try other games, but still enjoy and love what you do.
Yeah, and I think actually, funny enough, with my thing with D&D is I actually don't usually treat it as D&D specific because it's
Hmm.
very much homebrew and it's
Yeah.
taking things from different things. Like that, even that soap opera nature, I always compare long form storytelling to soap operas. I think that's one big difference. In that it is essentially a like soap operas get a lot of hate for some reason. Because they're like, oh, it's a specific type of acting in it. You know when you're watching a soap, it's kind of like a more kind of like dramatic, over the top thing, but that's exactly what D&D is. There's an element of seriousness, of course, when you get into like nitty gritty stuff, but at the same time you are having this fun, vibrant time that is very, very similar to soap operas. So I always think that long form storytelling and particularly D&D and just TTRPGs in general, they go hand in hand, and it's I think it's important to kind of recognize that it's like they're very different types of storytelling and they work, so we shouldn't like slate things. We should embrace them. It's easier.
Absolutely. And I also am going to call out people, especially the type of people who say, I don't like soap operas, therefore the girls or some other like yucky things.
Yeah.
But don't tell me professional wrestling isn't a soap opera. Don't tell me Formula One
Yeah.
isn't a soap opera.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. They are worse. They are bigger. They are tropier. They are way more dramatic and overproduced.
100%, especially wrestling.
Especially, of which there is an amazing TTRPG
Yes.
for as well.
Oh my god,
It
amazing.
is really cool. So yeah, there's amazing nuances and everything. When I was looking through your very long and very accomplished biography of work you do, there was indeed a lot of video games, and I think especially with the rise of Baldur's Gate 3 and other like anecdotally, there seems to be a lot of overlap between RPG players, MMORPGs, JRPGs, and jumps to TTRPGs. But
Mm.
as someone who is a professional in a lot of video game in the video game world, to say, what would you say are some core differences between the sort of medium of storytelling that you do in video games versus the TTRPG table experience that you have?
I would say the most obvious one would be improvisation,
Mm,
because you cannot do that in games at all, as in video games. Because even in games that are open world or have multiple endings or whatever, these are like still pre-programmed things that are within the game. So you might have even 15 endings, but they're still there. That's still a point to reach. Whereas with obviously TTRPGs, there mightn't actually be an ending. They might be like the most obscure thing happen at the end, and that is your ending, and that's totally okay too. So I would say that improvisation is one of the biggest one. I'd also say co-authorship is probably another one that is
yeah.
really big. Obviously, there's a certain amount of co-authorship within the actual game dev. I hit the mic. The game dev team when they're working to create certain things, but there isn't within the actual, the player playing the game. They only see the final product at the end of the day. So there's I think that those would be the main differences between it, and also player agency would be different between playing when you're playing a game, a video game versus a TTRPG as well. But improvisation, definitely one of the biggest ones. As a GM DM, you can never prepare for what your players are going to do. You can try, but
You can try.
you can try.
I have tried.
Mhm.
Learned that was a failing effort immediately. Do you think that the video games try to get that feeling of co-ownership of a story, try to get the feeling of improvisation? Is that something you think that can ever be achieved via the limitations of the inherent programming needs of a video game or just the production back end of a video game?
I think it's really tricky because, in one way, with games over the years, people presume that you are always the player, right? So they want to be the player, they want to be invested in the person, they want to be the person. Whereas there was the one of the games I worked on, Salty Chronicles, was very much you were actually playing as all the players, which is a
Hmm.
really interesting concept because it didn't mean that you were as one player, you were playing as a community on a ship. And they were visiting different communities from the ship, but you were playing as multiple players throughout. So it was a really interesting way of doing it where you weren't quite sure when you were reacting something which person you were initially, until you got into the rhythm of it and you learned how they speak. But I think as players, we've been conditioned to always be the one person, and you always have to be the hero, or you want to be the best person you want to be, or something like that. Or you're either two things. You're either really good in a lot of games, or you're really bad. And it's usually just a binary choice that you get to choose, especially in choice-based games, right? There's
Mhm.
never usually um, several different options. And I think that that's something that's yet to be fully explored within games. There are ways to it. Like I said, when I worked on Salty Chronicles, that was kind of something that we were trying out. Um, but I think that we just have this preconceived notion that we must be hero or villain, and kind of like that's it. I don't think we're quite there yet, but I'm excited to see games that branch out and do more of that. So there are more gray areas and things like that.
Do your fellow professionals in video game production, do they play TTRPGs? Do they,
Oh
like,
yeah.
learn and take lessons?
Oh, 100%. Like the company that I just worked for, Gambrinus, not so much TTRPGs, but we were very big board gamers,
Mm,
which is not dissimilar, of course.
true.
And that really helps just shape game design. You know what you like, and you put elements of that into games you work on. And it's important as well that people like stick to their ideals and their interests when it comes to developing games, because you cannot cater to everyone. It's just impossible. Even actually, in terms of telling storytellings in TTRPGs, you are not going to get on with everyone all the time. There are like ways that you storytell that's different, and that's okay. Um, and it's I think that people are sometimes scared to even try because they're afraid of offending people, or just like not being a professional at it, because obviously Critical Role, for example, is such a high bar.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah, that's and they are fantastic at what they do. On Road 20 and everything, like everyone like that, Dimension 20, all of that, they're fantastic at what they do. That is not the average person at all.
no, that is not.
No, not at all. And I wish that people would understand that more when they're coming into games, that we're not going to have all the lights and everything. We're not going to have a million soundboards and be able to push things, or beautifully created models all the time. Um, in terms of games as well, game making, I think it's okay that your games, at least in when you first create them, that they're messy and scrappy, and you just get used to systems, and you develop things with players. And I think that's a better place to start out and build things up from there.
Even especially if the persons working on them have unique stories to
Mm.
tell, have particular nuances. I recently sat down and played your chicken filet game.
Oh, right.
For the uninitiated, what is that about? And I'm a dark meat person, so I was like chicken fillet sandwich. I'm based in the Netherlands, so I was like,
Right.
for the uninitiated, what is that?
So chicken fillet rolls in Ireland are like a staple sandwich that you can get in a delicatessen. So it's really interesting as a premise, because Irish people have a fascination with going into delicatessens at like lunchtime. And usually there's the same array of stuff. Like you can get rolls, you can get a sandwich, you can get like potato wedges, things called jambons, sausage rolls, and things like that. But they're all made in front of you, apart from the hot food. So like the rolls, so the chicken fillet rolls, and this has become like a key item in Irish culture. And it's fascinating because it's not just a key item for like say students, which is kind of like a stereotypical look, but it's actually for like working class people, people who work in offices, high end jobs, everything like that. They know that they can go to an Irish deli and get a chicken fillet roll, and it is just something weird that kind of unifies them, which I think was just a fascinating premise, myself included. When I went to college, I would get it nearly every day.
At that,
Um,
not at that price, I hope.
Not at that price.
Inflation.
Oh, it's such a crazy price now. So it used to be, when I was getting it, it used to be like €3, and now I actually got one 2 days ago, and it was like €6.30, and I was appalled. It made me really sad. But that's the premise: is that you are a person going in to get this role. It's set across about 5 days and a condensed weekend, and it is about ultimately that, and some storytelling within. On the surface it looks quite humorous, there's a lot of jokes that go on, but there's some little nitty gritty stuff that goes on too, which I really enjoyed creating, and for my audience, so it was good.
It, it was good. I didn't get. I was told I got a bad ending.
Oh, I see, interesting. Okay, okay, yeah, 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 I
I,
can.
but as I
Yeah.
was playing it, I was like, huh. And there. I think for me was with my TTRPG sort of experiences, expectations. So like, oh, this is where this is subverting. This is getting me to think.
Hmm.
Should I be self-inserting? Am I playing a character? Where is
Right.
the line here? And it was a really cool experience in the end. And if anyone plays, we're going to put links to the itch.io as well, so you can just play it directly from your browser as
Yes.
well. It took me about under half an hour, I would say, like
Yeah.
with a tea break and everything.
Yeah, yeah, and it is that, and actually, thanks for pointing that out because this bad ending that I specifically even wrote in text is you have gotten that it hasn't been a good ending, it's been a
Hmm.
bad ending to whatever. That was on purpose as well because it was very much I was playing with. Well, you are making these choices as a player, but you are not that person at the same time. This is a person with specific set of ideals and feelings. And actually, one thing that I made sure to include, which you can check out on the page too, and the link on the itch, is that I did include my game design doc. So you can click in, look at it, see exactly what my thought processes were for all of it and how I developed those characters within. So I always like when game devs in general share that kind of stuff because it just gets you to understand things a bit more of where they're coming from, even if you don't agree, which is really, really nice, I think.
Yeah, that level of transparency, even through your blogs, where you sort of share a lot of your thought process through the many multiple professional things you do. And so I'm like, this is really insightful. And that must have taken a lot of work and effort. So just like, this is very organized looking. I'm so impressed. So if and when I ever get to Ireland, I have to try a chicken fillet sandwich.
Yes, that's the only place to get a good one for
All right.
sure.
All right. Here in the Netherlands, we have belegde broodjes,
Mm,
assortment of warm sandwiches as well that are made in front of you.
okay.
I wouldn't say they're specific to one sort of protein, like chicken breast, chicken fillet, for example.
Hmm.
Um, the better sandwiches, I'm going to say, are always the ones by immigrant communities, especially the Suriname's
Mm.
communities and their breads. So they could be um like this sweet, savory, saucy chicken and vegetable just on a bread roll. Here you go. That's the vehicle you need to do it.
Yes.
And it's a whole other language that Dutch people can speak, listing off these Indonesian or these Suriname's breads.
Mhm.
And I was watching, I was playing the game and I was like thinking about the Dutch lunch experience as well. So that was a really cool vehicle to like play the game and have a think, but also be like, hi, Ireland. I'm getting to see
Yeah.
you a little bit here.
And that's kind of like, I think, an important aspect of culture because a lot of people just see Ireland and they're not sure what our food is because they might think it's like bacon and cabbage or something like that, or it's just all potatoes or whatever. But actually, even in this simplistic role, that is one of our cultural foods. Even though you mightn't think it looks beautiful on the surface or whatever, it's like it's literally just a roll with a sandwich. Um, but has that kind of cultural element where people know an Irish person will know exactly what it is when they go into Delhi. So I think that that's really fascinating way as the actual road being the vehicle of the story. And I'm big into kind of doing that kind of like food related stories as well. So who knows? Maybe we'll have different ones where I focus on other sandwiches. I don't know. We'll see.
What's another Irish sandwich then, or typical sandwich that you associate with Ireland?
We'd have things jumbo breakfast rolls, which are pretty hardcore rolls where you put all the ingredients of an Irish breakfast into a roll. It's you shouldn't get it every day.
And by roll, we're talking like a
Like a
crust,
baguette,
like
a baguette,
okay,
a baguette, yeah.
like a proper French size baguette or a smaller
No,
one.
about this size.
Okay,
Yeah.
in the Netherlands we call this a pistolet, like a baguette that's
Ah,
only this big.
yes, yeah,
We
yeah,
call
yeah.
these pistolets.
Yeah, for us, it's always baguettes, like, just
Interesting.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, so for the jumbo breakfast roll, you're talking about, like, adding sausages, bacon, black pudding, white pudding, whatever, and you're, like, shoving this all into a roll. It's as I said, it's not something you should get every day, and it's absolutely not healthy at all.
That's a Herculean. That roll is doing its hard. It's hashtag best.
Yes, it
That
is. It's
little
trying
roll.
so hard.
The analogies of being the roll, the bread itself. Interesting, interesting. Um, yeah, a lot of what you also work on really focuses on not just the challenges, but also the joys that you come from having a multicultural background and experience.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I'm always conscious with in terms of like even games I play, I'm very aware of what's being represented. Um, and I just find that fascinating to see if people have done good jobs or interesting jobs or just if I'm playing a game and I get curious about things. And I think that in itself is really, really cool that you're interested in checking out more of the culture. So for example, I'm actually playing Coral Island at the moment, which is like basically like Stardew Valley, but not. So but they have a lot of influences of East Asian aspects within the game. I think it's an amalgamation of a couple of different East Asian things going on, but it's made me curious because they've included lots of words that I wouldn't understand, but I'm curious to Google and check out and things like that. Um, Similarly with Ireland, there tends to be a focus on Irish mythology, thinking
Yeah.
that that is our main thing. Personally, I'm not actually very interested in Irish mythology. I'm more interested in Irish folklore, which is definitely different. Um, so, for example, the studio that I just worked with, Gambrinus, we released our game into early access, Isa Hellfire, which was based on the Hellfire Club, which is a amazing building that sits in the Dublin Mountains. This big, huge, imposing stone building, which is a real life space that held the Hellfire Club, and is known for kind of having ancient cairns and satanic rituals. So it's like an amalgamation of that kind of folklore there and the strange things that went on there. So I think there are so many things to explore within different cultures that might not be the most obvious thing. And I am very interested in not doing the obvious thing. You kind of see it when you're like watching TV shows, and this happens so much. I don't know. It really annoys me, but it's like when
Mhm.
a stereotypical white man goes to Japan, right,
Yeah.
for example, and they're always
Mhm.
like, "Oh, this is so quirky. This is so unusual." Like, everything is like strange and quirky.
Exotic and
Yeah,
foreign.
and it's just like we've seen this a million times in TV. We don't need to see it again. Just let people go to Japan instead themselves and figure it out. Like find more interesting stories, I always think.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's what I think about when it comes to that kind of stuff. I'm sure you've experienced that too.
Holy moly. Um, do the mythos, local folklore, local values, do they snake their way into your D&D table, into your storytelling? Is there a fantasy chicken fillet sandwich?
Imagine no, but one thing that did happen once was that we actually introduced golf to D&D by accident. We
Oh.
just we realized we were like actually just doing golf motions. None of us play golf. But
Oh.
so it's kind of like just one of those moments was like, is this golf that we've created? So like little things like that happen in, I have to say, because we have a mix of like an Irish UK
Hmm.
and US audience, um, we kind of like amalgate a few different things that come in. I think that we're very conscious of things like real life stuff coming into
Yeah.
real world.
Hmm.
And also we're just like, we know that we all have very different lived experience. So on our table as well, we have queer folks as well, which is always very useful to go into a group that you already connect with people, which is always really nice. Whatever the situation. And we're also very respectful of each other when we're playing, and we always know that what we say at the table doesn't reflect our character. At times is we are playing a character, at the end of the day, but it's never gotten to a stage where we have had to severely challenge someone on something, because we have this mutual understanding and we've played with each other for a very long time. So we know each other, and we know each other IRL. Actually, my players have come to my wedding, so it's like online has come
Lovely.
offline. So it's been nice for
That's
sure.
that's so lovely. I've played one of the more joyful insertions of my own culture. My family's from Bolivia in South America. So I'm a
Wonderful.
first generation immigrant in the US and now I'm in the Netherlands. And a while ago, I played a very short campaign of the Modifius Star Trek RPG, if you're a Trekkie or not. And when it came to the point of we have to name our ship, we have to decorate things. I think I played the not the captain, wow, the commander. And I had posited to my table, and these are all friends I know here in Holland. So I'm usually the only person of color at my table. Uh, not as many women at the table because just that's the organic friend group.
Mhm.
But then I said, I would really like this our ship to be called, and I can't remember the word right now, so foo on me. But I wanted to be named after the name of the Incan mountain runners
Mm.
because they were critical in forming community links across mountains that separated villages and were important in sharing information, news, not just for battle things, but also like new births, counts for crops, etc. And so we named the ship, our Dutch table, and me, living in the last 15 years now, named our ship this. And in most Star Trek shows as well, the captain always has like decorations in their office,
Mm.
in their ready room. And we described that in the ready room of this ship, we had a traditional grass counting tool. So there were long grasses and they had knots tied in them. And this conveyed the information because the runners were busy running. And as much as information they tried to memorize, it was these knots and these grasses that were actually the so called written word, which was much more durable to carry on their runs across the mountains.
Right. Oh my God.
So so our ship was that bridge of communities and sharing information, just as my ancestors in the highlands of Peru and Bolivia must have done running on foot carrying these long grasses. And
Amazing.
and then we like got into a hefty encounter with Klingons because that is where Star Trek games go.
Yes, and I think that's actually a wonderful aspect of TTRPGs as well. It's like you have these beautiful descriptions, you know, these rich things that add so much to the culture of it, and then you get into fight, and then you just like,
And then
like
there's a dragon.
yeah, exactly, yeah. So it's that's really cool. I love that. I love that story.
But actually, the dragon just needs help getting married. And then you stop the game and you woo the dragon,
Of
which is
course,
exactly how Michelle, one of the organs here on Euphoria, described their last D&D game went as well.
of course, always
Devolved into help them wedding plan, help them woo.
amazing, amazing.
All right. So we talked a lot about the sort of differences that video games and TTRPGs can have. I think there's interest and joys. We all respectively enjoy both, so there's really big merits. But if someone wants to sort of do that crossover, someone
Mm,
hearing you and looks through your biography and says like, "That is so cool. I think I want to explore sort of that."
mm.
Where does one sort of get started, or how does one better foment their curiosity into actions?
Right. So if you're like trying to transition into games, it kind of depends which we call them disciplines in the
Hmm.
games industry. So it's like it kind of depends where you want to go. So I've worked mostly in production. And for me, a lot of my skills were transferable from other things. So organizational skills, just being able to project manage things and organize people, that kind of thing. So they were naturally skills that I could bring over to games. I will say it's so important to know that the games industry is notoriously difficult to break into. Very, very difficult. It has an issue with not hiring juniors. Massive issue, which means that a lot of people are just relying on senior talent or talent that's been in there for decades, which is fine to a certain extent because obviously people are really good at what they do. But by having no juniors, we're kind of screwed in the long term where we don't have any fresh ideas or it's more difficult for people to actually make a break in games. So that
Hmm.
unfortunately is just a thing that is in the games industry. Now there are things where you see like more student programs that are appearing, internships, but a lot of them internships are unpaid, which isn't great. Um, so that is one thing just to bear in mind that is really, really difficult. Another thing is because I've had to look at a lot of applications over the years from people applying to studios, and saying you're a gamer doesn't equate any game dev experience at all.
Absolutely true.
Yeah, and that's a big problem we see in applications, which is really interesting. Now, I'm a gamer myself and I play pretty much every day, but had I not the experience of game dev, I would not know how a game is made in any capacity. And I think that's really important when you're applying for games. It is actually really vital that you actually look at videos, look at tools, check out what people actually use to make games and play around with them. Specifically, if you're looking as a writer, for example, you need to look at the narrative tools that game devs use, play around with them, create things like, for example, with which you can fill a game, things on itch, you can publish on itch for free. Just make things, make things, create things, and don't be afraid if they're not great because they're not going to be great all the time. And also get feedback on your work constantly. Always ask for it. I know it's a bit scary for people to think, oh, people are going to like look at my game and hate it. Well, they're not going to hate it. They mightn't just like aspects of it. And you can tweak that. That's the whole point. It's always going to be like your game and then better. So I think that that's really important that you create. And itch is great too because it's not just games you can put up there. You can put up stories, interactive fiction, anything you want, and it's open there for consumption. And also, it's really useful as a portfolio. You need a portfolio if you want to work in games of some capacity, or just to prove that you can do things. Because so many times have I had applications where it's just like people have said, "Just take a chance on me," and I was like, "Why?
Yeah.
Why would I do that? I don't know anything about you. You haven't given me a reason as to why I would." Um, so yeah, the main thing is that it's a tough industry. You have to do it for the creativity. You definitely can't do it for the money. And also that most games don't succeed. Um, but that doesn't mean that you can't be successful in your line of work. So a lot of the games that I've worked on, they haven't been the big games that have won games of the year or whatever. But I do know the value of the team that actually put the work into creating the game, the hours that they put in, how hard that they've worked at different aspects of it. And that is more satisfying in one way to me than seeing if it like took off. I mean, that's an extra bonus, but like knowing that we've actually created something and shipped something, which is also very difficult to do to ship a game, is a massive achievement. And anyone should be super, super proud of getting to that stage. So, yeah, hard industry. Definitely work on portfolios and work on creating because if you don't create, you're not a creator.
That sounds like a mic drop, but these are expensive things. We will not be dropping them.
Absolutely not.
Because they're very stable for for a reason. That also, all of that sounds very true and sounds like a very huge parallel, if not almost word for word, the TTRPG industry, if one calls it an industry as well, if one wants to sort of take a more professional or more dedicated approach within
Mm,
TTRPGs. Um, I would assume like in video games, there might be in TTRPGs, we have what's often called game jams,
yes.
where an individual says, here's the theme, here's the limitation, we're going to cooperatively create together under this theme. Something could be like make a game in 36 words,
Right.
make a game about the color purple or
Mhm.
whatever. And we're all going to publish our results, no matter how they are, no matter how polished or unpolished they are, and say we have created this communitively. Here's a packet, here's a Z, and here's a bundle.
Yeah.
It's going to be for charity or some other thing. And creating, you need to create to be a creative, and I think that is an amazing takeaway, and also to absolutely follow feedback.
Yes. Yeah, so I would say as well, it's like seek feedback, but actually, in one way, you don't have to take on every bit of feedback. And
Hmm.
I think a lot of people get stuck on that too because they think that, okay, well, this person is giving me XYZ, but if it's just one person, they mightn't necessarily be correct actually. And one thing that has to do with that is your own ideals within things. You might have a particular vision towards a game or a mechanic or whatever. Um, and it just might be the right thing for you in that moment. You might have a particular thing that you want to stick with, and that's okay too. Not everyone is going to love your game. It's just impossible. Even like something as obviously as massively popular as Baldur's Gate 3 has tons of like mixed reviews or negative reviews, but also has a majority overwhelmingly positive reviews, which is fair. But of course, you're not going to always get 100% because that's just impossible. You're never going to do that. Um, and that's why I think feedback is really interesting. It's good to get more than one, and it's also better to get feedback not from your friends, if
Yeah.
at all possible,
Hmm.
because your friends are going to be like, they don't want to upset you as much as possible, majority of the time.
Majority of the time.
Yeah, majority of the time. And also I find as well with friends is friends can give you more of an audience aspect, but if you can find peers who work in, like, for example, TTRPGs or in game dev or whatever, they're more than likely going to give you actually nitty gritty, actionable stuff that can really work for you. Um, which is, I crave feedback all the time. I think it's just vital and I just love it. So I'm always looking for it in every aspect, be it writing or game dev or whatever. I just approach the same people and they can know they can approach me too if they want stuff too. So it's a good rapport that you can have between people for sure.
I remember an interview a while ago in a previous life on a previous channel that I helped run, where we are talking to this uh, developer writer from France who makes D&D 5e guides, extra stat blocks, homebrew monsters, etc. and who he himself said like, yeah, the first things I made was garbage, and people were right to rip me apart and throw me in the garbage. They were absolutely correct. It was bad.
Hmm.
This person also came off recently from like winning an any gold or silver, which is like the highest award, one of the highest awards you get in TTRPGs, for ultimately a larger compendium of monsters. So there was absolutely that journey of like, I just had to put it out there. I just had to experience what it was like creating,
Yeah.
and then exercise that as any muscle, as with any skill.
Yeah.
And they had what it took to get better, to get better and get to there. But that doesn't mean you didn't have fun on the journey, that your things aren't valid.
Right. Right, and actually that's what feedback is really useful for because it can validate things that you feel are actually very good. And when even the mistakes. So if you know that you're like, "Oh, I have a feeling that this running mechanic isn't really working," and then a slew of people say, "Yeah, we don't think it's working." It's like, "I knew it. Perfect. I thought it was just me, but that's good." That's, so it's there's actually always real positives to good feedback. Um but also obviously you have to take it, say if you get it like a slew of just like people are trolling you, that's a separate thing. Then you kind of need to separate, well, that's just their opinion, you know? And
Hmm.
if you think of it that way, it kind of helps you bounce back from things, and not be reactive over the thing. And that can be really, really difficult. I know myself that over the years I could have been quite defensive about certain things, but once you like separate, like that's just their opinion. It's not your opinion, it's just theirs. And I think it's well, it helps that I'm in my 30s now and I don't care. So that is their age has certainly helped with that aspect 100% of just getting
Yeah.
over it. Yeah.
I'm going into the decade beyond that, so
It's fine.
it gets better,
Yeah,
friends. It gets better.
it's good.
Your skin finally clears up. It gets better. You mentioned that it's difficult for especially juniors to sort of break through,
Right.
but I'm also curious from your experiences, not necessarily the studios you've worked at, unless you don't want to say,
Mm,
but more the industry as a general. How is it when women or femmes,
mm.
or uh, women of color, femmes of color, want to start or sort of on that staircase? What in your what has been your experience in that field, being that extra thing?
Yeah. So I have been in a very great position in that both studios I worked for had queer folks on it, also trans folks on it. So I was in a position where I was already in an inclusive community and a team. So for me, it was very easy for me to kind of like move into this community and team and be part of their working life and not have issues. But that is not absolutely not the case for a lot of people. And also for people who haven't come out or things like that, it's can be very, very difficult. I know teams of where people have like transitioned within team during their time developing games. And that in itself is, of course, difficult. Or they've decided that they would like different pronouns to use. And those are big, challenging things that a lot of studios aren't used to until they've experienced it themselves with another person or even themselves. So I think we have a lot of learning curves when it comes to how to deal is the wrong word, but to like
Yeah.
experience it, because you just mightn't be used to it as a person. You mightn't have had, you mightn't even had a person of color as a friend. A lot of people, that's the case. They just haven't had colleagues like that or whatever, which is just a reflective of the industry and life in general. Um, and for those kind of things where you're trying to get used to how people of color, queer folks have lived experience, it's really cool. It's really important. Cool is the wrong word, but it's really important to kind of look at spaces where people of color are more predominant. So, for example, I'd recommend people check out the Game Devs of Color Expo, which
Oh,
is
okay.
on every year, and they have loads of talks from people of color and marginalized communities, and that's really cool, and it just like highlights them. And it's so bizarre, I still think people don't realize that people of color are just like normal people. It's just like, oh, they're doing talks on like leadership and production and programming. It's like, yeah, like any white person would do. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of fascinating to still see that kind of like gap between like, thinking that we're so different. It doesn't make any sense to me in that respect. But definitely recommend checking out that expo and just seeing the spaces and watching the talks and supporting the talks and just being interested in how people of color see the world, but also not pigeonholing people,
Absolutely.
because that has happened to me a lot. I'm sure it's happened to yourself as well, Ida, where
Like
it's
being
just
tokenized and
yes. Yes, especially when I've unfortunately experienced a lot of racism in my life here in Ireland. Ireland is can be pretty bad when it comes to racism, which is ironic because we've immigrated all over the world. So it's kind of a weird situation there. But one thing, there was a very public incident that happened to me that was documented in the news. And so people, I found that media outlets then decided, okay, well, she's the girl who's going to talk about racism all the time.
Oh.
Yeah, so they tried to be like, "Okay, we'll get her for an interview, but I want her to talk about this." And I'm just like,
Mhm.
"You know what? I don't want to talk about that. I'm interested in video games, foraging, um, whatever." And I'm not that is not me. It happened to me and it sucks, but it's like not I get to choose when I talk about that, not you don't get to choose when I talk about that kind of thing. So,
Yeah, you are not you, people of color, people from marginalized communities, you, plural, universal you, are not responsible for educating the nuances of the historical or collective trauma you or your ancestors, etc., may have experienced.
mhm,
Um, the internet exists, Wikipedia exists. People of color have already written extensively about it. They have already spoken about this. It is incumbent on anyone else to educate themselves and not burden or spotlight or make someone the poster child of this is your existence, this is all you're known for. Now
mhm.
smile and let us make us feel ourselves better because we listen to you and we're not going to listen to anyone else as we've actively ignoring anyone else.
Right, I know, and it's a huge, huge problem. And if a person of color, if that is their focus, that is totally okay too.
And they are saints for having the patience to put up with that.
Absolutely, because they must be exhausted. Yeah, yeah. So that's a big problem within this industry in general, is that yeah, people just think we're not on the same as other people or can't do the same things, or can't believe that we're capable of doing whatever. So definitely highly recommend Game Devs of Color Expo. It's a great expo on every year. Worth checking out.
That is a wonderful resource to know. And as much as people be like excited, like they're doing the same thing, they're just the same thing.
Mhm.
I also want to highlight how important it is to role model and to have role models that share your experiences, share your people of color, people from marginalized communities experiences. It really matters to see women and queer people at a table. It really matters to see disabled people, neurodivergent people at the table. It really matters to see immigrants up and forefront at the podium being celebrated for positive things as well. It really matters that they are in decision making positions
Right.
and not just there for, I don't know, Latin Heritage Month, not just there for Black History Month, which are important things to celebrate,
Mhm.
but we can't like put away the pride flags when on July 1st, sort of thing.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, yeah. That's really important that life is still there and is still happening to so many people, as we can see
Mhm.
across the world right now. And yeah, as well as having queer folks and people of color on your teams or in your communities or whatever, it's so important to have allies as well, because it's majority allies in the world. That's just the way it is right now. And yeah, it's one thing that I feel I'm really glad that on my own D&D table and within my, in my player groups and everything like that, we are very much on the same page when it comes to those kind of things. And we listen to each other because not everyone's experience is the same. And it's okay as well to have different opinions, which some people are sometimes scared about in friends group, but like, it's okay. We don't actually have to agree on everything. It's fine.
Well, I'm glad you have a good table like that then.
Yeah, for
I'm
sure. For
happy
sure.
for you then. Would you ever consider doing TTRPG game development? Would you ever consider like taking some of the homebrew you've made, tweaking it, and having it available for public consumption?
I would love that, but I would imagine it would involve a very big wiki. But I would definitely love that, because I'm sure as people who create, you are so invested in everything, your characters and your world and everything like that. It'd be cool to do it just to get feedback, actually, and to like collate it in one place. I use Notion for all of my notes, so I have a big wiki for myself, but
Hmm.
it's a scrappy Notion where things are like blah 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 blah. Everything I know where everything is, but no one else would. So I would love to put that up and kind of like develop things. At the same time, I'm always a bit hesitant to, because spoilers for characters, for spoilers
Mhm.
for the players, you know, kind of thing. So what I do within my game is that I do release like vignettes, so short stories of different characters. I also have like information where they can get more backstories if they so wish. They can click in and have a bit more development, which has a bit more what's a bit more backstory to certain characters. I've also created on my itch, for example, like backstories that are interactive to do with different characters.
Wow.
So it's kind of like I'm interested in the aspect, but they don't have to consume that if they don't want. That's just more for me, to be honest. But I like creating more of a deeper, richer kind of landscape. So I create my own maps, for example, and all that kind of thing. So it's I guess that's what 7 years of a campaign does to you. It's that you just keep on making things constantly. So
That
yeah.
I feel that is, if we can excuse the parlance, the love language.
Yeah.
Absolutely, just creating more for your tables. I'm the kind of GM DM that if I have the means and capacities, I love making like short films. Like this character is having a vision or demon sequence. I actually made a movie. Here you go.
Oh,
Here's the soundtrack
amazing.
to it, sort of thing.
So cool.
Yeah, but even if you don't want to necessarily publish or make your notion, your 7 year long notion ready for publishing, you could always extract like, here's a stat block for a custom for a magical item I use.
Mm,
You can put it in anywhere, and
that's
maybe
true.
someone will say like, hey, your magical item, I inserted it into my nautical campaign. I inserted it into my Fae campaign, and it's also kind of like you said, there's this ownership idea. It's co-ownership idea of the story TTRPGs,
Yeah.
where once you put something out there, as specific as many indices or context you have to provide it, sometimes all of that goes and it becomes something completely different in someone else's hands.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I think that's what's really cool about storytelling in general. I think what has been really useful for my own brain is that so we play weekly. On Monday we actually had a session most recently, and it's I do recap notes for every single week. So I have notes going all the way back to 2018, that we do the recap at the top of the session. And it's really nice because we can just like look back. It's like, no, you did say that. And so it's kind of like great for refreshing things, like, or no, I don't remember that at all. And then a peer will be like, actually, this is what was said in 2020. And it's like, oh, okay. So that's handy and funny at the same time when you're going like, oh yes, yes. And it's nice callbacks that you can do but the good thing too on my table is that we've had three I have three other DMs on my table. So
So
it's
it's
really handy because I can just fact check anything. If I'm stuck on something or my brain is overloaded, I'm like, can you tell me this? Because I just can't remember. And they're really good at just still letting me play things out, and take ownership in that respect. But they're also great at being like, they won't be like, excuse me, actually,
yeah.
you're doing everything wrong. But it's more like, oh, actually, if you want, you can do it this way. I was like, great, that's fantastic. I didn't know that, so that's really handy too.
Yep. Like the invisibility is a status that does not mean you are physically, with regards to light particles, invisible. And this was something that broke us. Or mount rules in
Mm,
5e was something that broke us a lot. I had a flowchart on an index that I constantly played. I'm
yeah,
also the note taker and
yeah,
also had like the tens of thousand character long things with
yeah.
indices. We recorded our home games, not for public consumption, but everything was time stamped, linked,
Right.
until I started to DM. I was like, okay, because I feel this a bit much of a carry. You're all going to give a 1 minute, 2 minute recap, and if you do good enough, you get inspiration this game.
Yeah, yeah. And there's little
Read the
things.
notes that I wrote, please.
Read all my notes, please. Read my
Read them.
recap. It's I do two things where I have my notes written and then I read them again at the top of the session, so they have no excuses. They have to listen. But it's one of those fun things where it's really rewarding to see them remember things actually
Hmm.
and do callbacks. Like they're still calling back and reminiscing over a thing that happened in like 2019. So it's like really nice that they like those chunky bits of stories still stood out to them, and that they still hated that moment in the moment, but are still like recalling that, or that they have characters that they hate and characters that they love. I love that when they're like talking about NPCs that they have interacted with. It's really nice. It's really nice
What
feeling.
happened in 2019?
Oh, they got stuck in a town that was on loop, essentially, and it took them a while to get out of there. So, yeah, there was a lot of blood and jelly, a mixture of blood and jelly. It was a fun time, but they eventually got out of there. And now, when they if they go to visit the town and they have heard of it, it's pretty much like as if nothing happened. So it's like an overgrown place. So it was like a place that was stuck in time, essentially.
Mm.
Um, at the moment, they're currently fighting in a vineyard that's currently all set on fire. So we have hazards between like fire spreading as well as them trying to defeat the enemies that are in front of them and save a person's livelihood. So it is what it is, as I always say.
Best of luck to those characters. And I think I don't need to wish luck to your players because, from what it sounds like, they're also in a very happy and fulfilling and safe and communicative space, which is what we wish for everyone. One last curiosity thing, people. What time of day do you play at? Because you mentioned a lot of European based and some US based. What time
Yes.
of day do you play at?
We play at 8 o'clock in Irish time, so GMT, 8 o'clock GMT for
In
2 hours.
the morning, in the
Night, no,
evening,
in the night.
in
Night,
the
night.
night. Okay, so that means your US person is probably afternoon or
Mhm.
early morning based on what of the 4 or 5 time zones they're
Yes.
at.
Yeah, about afternoon for them. Yeah, yeah, yes.
Okay, okay. That's quite fortunate. A lot of euphoria. A lot of us have the communal experience of playing with American friends. We
Mm,
love them. I'm American based, they're cool, but it's usually us having to be awake at 2 in the morning for their 7, 8 p.m. in the evening. And we were
right.
just like, no more. No
Yeah.
more, we're done.
Yeah, I think it definitely works for us right now. We usually play 2 hour sessions. So sometimes three, rarely four, but usually it's from 8 to 10. And people know that that's the slot that we play at. So it's quite nice and very regular, as I said, weekly. So we know where we're going to be.
I love that consistency for you. Last little topic, you also curate some very local spaces. And I
Mm,
think this is really important as well. So there's that sense of community that is tied regionally, culturally, community that you can physically see or know, or have at least access to.
hmm
Um, here at Euphoria, we're also sort of newly creating this community that is European based, where we can sort of find this space where we immediately come together in these things that we find common between us, be it that region, language, our our like of Greg sausage rolls or our dislike of Greg sausage rolls, which is very unifying.
Yeah.
What tell me about the community space you have that
Yeah,
you curate.
so I run two spaces. One of them is smaller because it stemmed off from my streaming page.
Mm.
So that's an interesting space in the sense that those who have joined that space have watched me for hours on end on Twitch so that they know what my thoughts are and what my opinions are. They spent a long time with me, even though it's kind of one sided in one way because I don't see them. But those have transitioned into like my D&D players or, people I've met IRL and that kind of thing. So for that space, it's a very easy space for me to run because we're all on the same page when it comes to that kind of stuff. And that's a small space. My bigger community, which is an Irish language community,
One.
that has nearly 2,500 members. So that's big enough. And that's different because I am not the main focus of that group. I am the administrator and the creator, but ultimately it's not, they're not coming to they're not coming to the Discord for me. They're coming for the Irish language, which is very different. And what's interesting about running that community is that so the focus is on the Irish language, and in particularly my server is all through the Irish language. So it's an immersive server, immersion,
Oh.
because we want to keep the Irish language as a very active language instead of an endangered one. So therefore, when you come into this, there's only one space to speak English, and that's only for questions and clarifications to do with grammar or pronunciation. And the reasoning behind that is because there are plenty of spaces where you can millions and millions of spaces you can speak English, but we want to
Yes.
create that. And there was like, fine, go. So it's okay to go somewhere else to get your English if you really want it. But here's where you get Irish, and not many people agree. Like, you'd be surprised how many people come into the server and don't agree with that and challenge that. I'm like, well,
Mm.
this unfortunately just isn't the server for you. And with things like those kind of servers, it's like really important to stick with your ideals, in similar in the way that I was mentioning when you create games, you can have a vision for something, but you should you should try and stick to your vision and be able to back things up. So on a more interesting kind of stance and more political stance, um so the Irish language server, when we're talking about like wishing people like um like maybe for St. Patrick's Day, or we're just saying like Merry Christmas or Happy New Year, whatever, we will often feature things like the like Ukraine flag or Palestinian flag, and people have challenged us on that. Particularly when it comes to Palestine, Ireland is in a very interesting position where we are well known for being a pro-Palestinian country,
Mhm.
because we understand, we have very big empathy to do with the Palestinian people because of colonialism. We understand that. So it's actually very natural for an Irish language server to be pro-Palestinian, because we have that connection. So I think it's really interesting with your communities like that, when you have those certain ideals, that you really do stick with them, and you understand why you stick with them, and the communities understand that. And I think that's a way of effectively running communities, because you cannot cater to everyone. But also, if you have no opinions, then it's kind of boring. Overall, it's good to have, to be able to back your own ideals, and that for people to know straight off the bat, like this is the kind of community you're going into. So I think it's all about like the balance between like me working with my moderators and my community. We do feedback forums as well, anonymous, of course, because
Yeah,
we don't need to know who you are.
safety, all
Um,
the things.
yes, and that's been really useful too. But it's been running for a long time, maybe similar to maybe 2017, 2016. Um,
Wow.
yeah, so I'm not sure. I have a feeling it's that long. I have to check that. But we have members from all over the world at various stages of the Irish learning community, and that has been really interesting and very challenging to work with at the same time. When we do have disputes or whatever, we do have to tease them out or bring them to DMs. And people love watching with popcorn as well. If something goes awry, they love it.
Oh,
But that's just something that I always try and like calm down. The worst thing is when you deal with something and you have to delete something because maybe it was offensive or whatever, and then someone pipes in later on and be like, "Oh, what did I miss?" And it's like, we're not recapping it for you, okay? It's done. We don't need to do it. So a lot of things to think about, but yeah, working with moderators, working with rules to a certain extent, and the obvious stuff, obviously, don't discriminate, don't be be an ass,
yeah,
all those
basically.
kind of things. Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much it. And it's worked really well. Community is thriving, so that's good.
Is your Irish language server open to anyone, or is there like a closed application?
No, it's open to everyone. We do have a high level of security because we've been rated, unfortunately.
Hmm.
So, but it is open to everyone. If you just search for it's in the Irish language, the name. So it's CRAIC, crack, and then LE, and then GAEILGE, crack Gaeilge, and that is the server, and it's in directories and stuff like that. So it is available for people. Just be aware that when you go in, we do have a high verification process because of those reasons. But it is
That's,
what it is.
that's really cool. I know at EU for our community specifically, we do have at least one Irish language speaker
Cool.
and at least two, three people who are actively learning.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So maybe we can send them there where you can find some
100%.
more like nerds as
Yes.
well.
Absolutely.
We love community growth. We love sharing. Never hoard your own resource. Never hoard your
No,
people.
no.
Please share them everywhere.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. Unfortunately, I cannot hoard you. We're going to sort of bring it to a close now. Is there any sort of cool project or someone else's project that you want to plug that is happening around now, this time in March or later on this year?
So I don't have any particular things going on apart from, well, I do my own solo indie games on my itch. So people are more than welcome to check those out. They're all free to play currently. And that's what I'm doing. And I'm writing a lot in the background. I'm on Blue Sky mostly, or in the Irish language Discord. For other people's works, I actually just recommend you check out. You mentioned this previously with TTRPGs, but I recommend checking out game jams in general that you can find in itch. There's a big directory there of things you can just tune into, create, destroy, do
Mm-hmm.
whatever you want. So I really recommend people just giving that a go. Um, I'm also available over on Twitch, which I stream every so often. You can find me over there at Unitex, which is YUNITEX. So I had to check my spelling there for a second. And yeah, I'm very much for celebrating people's different works. If I was to recommend something currently in general, because I've just almost finished reading it, I would really recommend Becky Chambers' books. They are fantastic, really well written. The book that I'm currently reading is the long way to. Oh my gosh, let me think of the name. It's such a wordy name,
All right.
but let me get it. I'm going to take 2 seconds just to check it because it is one of
Take
those.
your seconds.
Yes. Long way to a. I think I have it. Sure. And there we go. Yes. The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. It is
Oh.
a brilliant book full of LGBTQIA characters, really, really fascinating story, and just really well written. Goes in more the style of like hope punk rather than, so it is kind of like it's sci-fi, but there's a lot of hope there and community there, and I really, really like it. And then separately, I would also recommend Viet Thanh Nguyen's book, The Sympathizer and The Committed, two excellent, excellent books with very brilliant descriptions on race and racism and community and all that kind of stuff. So those are things in general that I recommend. They're not new, but they're good reads.
All right. Let me put it on the Christmas list and the birthday lists, all the lists that are coming up. And maybe, hopefully, are you ever interested in doing actual plays?
Yes, though I would imagine I'd be kind of nervous, but excited at the same time.
Everyone starts somewhere.
Yeah.
And by all means, you're welcome to play games with us. Every now and then, we do have casting calls for the various games we're going to do throughout the year. And you and I mean, not anyone else watching, of course, over on our Discord channel, we also have community games. People from our community just like, hey, I want to run Call of Cthulhu in a way that makes Lovecraft like spit in his grave like ridiculously hard. I want to run Pirate Borg. I want to run this game. And they just do it. And it's there locally. It's not streamed for anyone, it's for your personal enjoyment. And they're all also done at European time zones.
Mm,
So again, you're guaranteed not to be waking up 2 in the morning. We always recommend safety tools. We're trying to be very communicative, and we're also very like tailored environment. So if you ever want to flex your TTRPG role playing or even GMing, if you want to branch out from D&D, D&D is great, but there's a amazing, wonderful world of things that aren't just D&D. I heartily recommend you come join our tables.
oh, for sure, Ida. Thank you.
You'd be very, very welcome. Thank you so much for being here. For everyone else, thank you for watching. All of Úna-Minh's links are going to be in chat or in the description below. Please follow all of her work, the things she's recommended, and please continue following at us at EU for this whole month, where every single table, panel, chat is going to be with all women and femmes from all walks of life, particularly those here in Europe who make, love, play, breathe TTRPGs, and all of the things in their periphery. Thank you so much again. Follow us on our socials, and I'll see you next time. Bye.